Hey, it's Clay. Welcome to another League of Legends video. This time I wanted to do a video talking about split pushing. I wanted to kind of walk through some of the basics of split pushing, what type of champions you should pick, what type of decisions you need to be making in order to be successful, and so that you guys can kind of understand the strategy. Now, I think split pushing can be very, very effective and very powerful in solo queue. It's definitely something that if you get good at it, you can definitely have repeated success, and you can, really carry through this type of gameplay, just because it is it's a very solid way to, and it takes a heavy advantage of solo queue, especially the uncoordinated nature of solo queue, the way in which people, they don't really work together very well. Split pushing really takes advantage and preys on that, and so it's a lot of fun. It's very lone wolf. If you've ever been frustrated by your lack of good teammates, then split pushing is a nice way to just kind of do your own thing and try to be successful in your own way. But overall, it's definitely a lot of fun, and it's definitely something that every player should have in their arsenal. Now, let's talk a little bit about the core idea of split pushing. So you're going to probably want to go into the top lane. You're going to want to take a champion who has a couple of characteristics. One would be strong pushing power. So the ability to push minion waves and or towers very quickly is very important. And also, you're going to want to have a champion who can duel very, very well, who can win a 1v1 against almost anyone once they get a couple of strong items. And then lastly, you're also going to really want a champion who can escape very, very efficiently. Someone who's very slippery. So let's think about champions who are kind of fall into this category. In this game, I'm playing Lee Sin. Lee Sin can definitely work really well. Some of the best split pushers that I come to mind, it would be Tryndamere is probably top dog. He is just such an effective split pusher. He builds almost pure glass cannon, so he does a ton of damage. And then with his ultimate in a 1v1 situation, he's almost impossible to duel. Just because he gets that free invulnerability. And usually what is the death of Tryndamere is like AoE, multi-chaining, crowd controls, those types of things. Well, in a 1v1 situation, you don't really have that, so that can be really, really good. Shen is a classic split pusher, a little bit different. Shen is more of the type of split pusher where you're mostly going to split push you because of your ultimate, because of your ability to join the fight at any time. So, even if there's fighting 5v4, you can join that fight and make it 5v5 at a moment's notice. And if you buy Sunfire Cape, then you get some pretty good pushing potential. But other split pushers that would really, really good, Lee Sin can definitely work. Shaco is a classic example. AD Nidalee. We can even look at someone like Jax. He can be really good. Riven, she can split push really well. She definitely falls into that category very nicely. Trying to think of any other types of champions that I can think of. You could even do someone like Vladimir can work really well. Rengar, Aatrox can work. Udyr can be a solid choice. It definitely, any of these champions, they all have kind of this theme going. They're really good duelists, they have really good mobility and escape, and they all can push really, really well. In terms of AD carries, pretty much anybody who buys Static Shift can work, but generally AD carries don't want to split push just because they don't tend to 1v1 quite as well, unless you're Vayne, just because they don't take any damage. So you want to, bruisers are probably the best choice. So anyways, now that we've kind of, talked about what types of champions you want, let's talk a little bit about the decision making involved. So the basic decision making is that basically you want to put the enemy team into an unwinnable situation. You're kind of putting them in like the Malachi crunch per se, where they're in between a rock and a hard place. There's no good decision for them to make, and the basic idea there is that if you're up in top lane pushing and they have 5v4, if your team just doesn't fight, disengages, and wave clears to prevent them from taking towers, then you're going to take towers for free. So you're gaining an advantage because you're taking free towers. On the other hand, if they send one person to come deal with you, then it's 4v4. Then your team shouldn't be at any disadvantage. But if, like I said, if it's 4v4, then what you basically want to do there is hopefully your champion is strong enough and good enough that you can duel whoever they send to you. And whoever they send in a 1v1 situation, you can probably really, really wreck them. Because you're playing, like I said, a champion who's really good at 1v1s. So if you, like I said, if you're playing Tryndamere, no matter who they send, you can probably kill them. That's pretty much the basic idea here. And then if they send 2 people to stop you because one person wasn't enough, then your team has a 4v3 somewhere else on the map where hopefully they can engage, pick up some kills, and do a lot of work for your team. So that's kind of the basic idea, that it's an unwinnable situation. You are creating so much pressure that there's nothing good. Like I said, there's no positive outcome for the enemy team. And it's definitely a fun situation to be in. And then so basically, when you're making these decisions, you're going to want a couple of things going for you. First of all, you're going to want good map control. That's really an important part of this, and you're going to also really want good ward coverage. So if I'm playing top lane in this game on blue side, I really like to have a ward on their red buff, kind of either in the brush on red buff or the one up into the right of it. So a ward where you can see someone collapsing on you from mid lane is really, really important. So on Lee Sin, I actually bought a Sightstone. That's a really good item for Lee Sin in general, just because you can make a lot of flashy plays with it. But with the ward jumps, which I'm using right there. But but the Sightstone also gives you really good map control because you have so much vision for your team with 2 Sightstones between you and your support that it just puts your team in a very powerful and effective position. And then also, you're also going to want to communicate to your team and just make it clear, because not everybody understands split pushing. Because a lot of times people just want to fight whenever they see it. So if it's a 5v4, just tell your team, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. Just wave clear, protect towers, because that's really what you want to do. And split pushing is a little bit team reliant in the fact that they need to make the right decision as well. You definitely don't want to just, you want to make sure that your team comp can support your split pushing. And what I mean by that is you're going to want someone with wave clear, because like I said, if you're in the first situation where it's 5v4 and they're pushing in on one of your towers, if you've got a champion like Ziggs or Orianna or this game we had Sivir, champions who can almost immediately clear a wave from safety, that's really, really effective, because there's almost nothing that the enemy team can do then. But if you don't have any good wave clear, then that 5v4 is going to turn into a bad situation for you guys. So it's really important that your team also kind of understands what to do. And also, if you see like 2 or 3 people chasing after you, you should ping to your team and say, be aggressive, go make a play, and tell them ahead of time, do something. There was a situation in this game where I had drawn, Blitzcrank, Jax, and Ashe all up to the top lane, and Ashe arrowed me. Blitzcrank was chasing after me. He ended up using his talisman, and they caught the kill on me. But in turn, my team got a free dragon, and they got a ton of pressure, pushing a ton of waves into mid and top, or in mid and bottom. So it ended up being a very good situation for us. That definitely came out to be a win. And overall, the goal here isn't to become this monster and get a ton of kills. I've seen Tryndameres who can go, 0-5 in the early laning phase, but they're just going to go top and they're going to push and push and push, create a ton of map pressure, and draw attention to themselves. And, it just puts your team in a really good situation where it's really difficult for them to deal with you, because, you just have so much going on with your pushing power that even if you aren't getting kills, you're doing a lot of good for your team because of the objectives that are going on. And I think this is the core of split pushing, that split pushing is a very objective-focused strategy. It's one where you're not trying to be flashy and get a bunch of kills, which is definitely when I have played in lower elo brackets, that's one of the hallmarks of those types of games. People in bronze and silver are very, very kill focused, and they're not necessarily very objective focused, and that is definitely not what you want to be when you're split pushing. You want to focus almost entirely. You're almost playing a PvE, a player versus environment, rather than a player versus player. You're almost just focusing on pushing minion waves as hard as you can and trying to get towers as quickly and as fast as you can. Now, there may come a time, in this game there are times when I do group with my team, because Lee Sin can do quite well in a teamfight situation. I've got the slow, I've got the, a lot of AoE damage. I also have my ultimate, which a well-timed Dragon's Rage can really do a lot for your team. The utility with my shields can also be really good as well. So, you kind of have to understand that some of these champions do better in teamfight situations than others. But yeah, it's just kind of a call that you need to make on a game-by-game basis, but something to be aware of. And overall, you really need to be heady. You need to have an understanding of making calls and making good decisions so that your team can win. But anyways, those are kind of the basics of split pushing. Again, to review a little bit, you want to pick the right champion. The right champion is going to be one who's got really good pushing potential. The right champion is going to be one who can duel extremely effectively, and one who has some sort of slipperiness or escape ability to try to get away. And then also, you're going to want to make sure that you coordinate with your team so that, depending on whether it's a 5v4, a 4v4, or a 3v4, that your team knows how to respond to what the enemy team does. Whether they should be defending and just wave clearing, or if they should be fighting, or if they should be, playing passively. Whatever the correct choice is, you should be, telling that to your team based on how the enemy team is responding. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think split pushing is a lot of fun, and it's definitely something to keep in your arsenal. I tend to go towards split pushing when I just kind of want to play lone wolf, and I'm a little bit tired and annoyed with getting bad teams, and that happens. Sometimes you just have a string of bad games, so then I'll go to split pushing as kind of my way to just focus on my own gameplay and my own playstyle, and just kind of be this lone wolf who creates a lot of pressure across the map, and you just kind of let your team deal with it as you will. I've definitely had games, and I wouldn't say that this is, in some ways, that definitely preys on the solo queue mentality, that your teams are going to be uncoordinated and they're going to be a little bit just not working well together. That can be a good thing because the enemy team isn't going to know how to respond very well, but on the flip side, that also can be true of your team, that they won't necessarily know how to take advantage of your split pushing as well as they maybe could. So that's something to keep in mind, but overall, I still do think that it's a very powerful and a very effective and very fun strategy that I definitely would recommend. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts down below on split pushing, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.